Good morning, and thank you for coming out this morning. I'm Chip Dawson, and I'm here on behalf of the Utah Transportation Coalition. We appreciate you joining us in Vernal City this morning as we come together today to talk about Utah's transportation needs throughout the state. The coalition, the Utah Transportation Coalition, is a broad-based, business-led collaboration between local governments and business leaders that are committed to looking at strategic solutions to address Utah's transportation needs for the coming decades. Currently, our state and local transportation needs exceed the available funding. And transportation needs range from anything from road maintenance to all the way to sidewalks and bikes and pedestrian paths. We're here today as a part of a launch of a statewide public education campaign to talk about the need for increased transportation funding. There's been similar events held this week in Farmington, Utah, in St. George, and also up at the Utah State Capitol. The goal of this initiative is to remind all of us, whether we use the transportation or not, that we all benefit from increased investment in transportation. From the goods and services from our favorite online retailers that get delivered to our doors, to those who travel and commute miles a day to work, we all benefit when we have a good, safe, and efficient transportation system, particularly here in the Uinta Basin. The Utah Transportation Coalition is committed to working with our elected officials, both at the state, county, and local level, the local level as well, to come up with a long-term funding solution to our transportation needs. We're grateful that many of our state and local leaders have committed and have recognized this need and are wanting to work on a solution that'll move us forward. Today we're going to be hearing from Mayor Sonia Norton, the mayor of Vernal City, Commissioner Mark Raymond, who's a county commissioner with Uinta County, Adam Massey, the executive director of the Vernal Chamber of Commerce, and the Uinta Chamber of Commerce, Ryan Jones from R.W. Jones Trucking and on behalf of the Utah Trucking Association, and then also Sherry McCurdy with the Uinta Transportation Special Services District. I'd be remiss if I didn't take a moment, though, to express our gratitude for all of you, those who have attended today, but also express our gratitude to City Manager Ken Bassett here at Vernal City, who's been a gracious host and a great partner, and also Sasha Clark with the Utah Trucking Association, and then also Cameron Deal with the Utah League of Cities and Towns. We appreciate their assistance. Mayor?
This is an issue that is fairly passionate to a lot of us because we know we need our transportation to get around. So we've brought our street department here today, and I'd like to have them come up.
I've seen them before in the line like this.
Maybe in a different color. No, we really appreciate our streets department. They work very hard to maintain not only our streets, but our sidewalks, our curbs, our gutters, our storm water. There's so many issues I think that most of the public doesn't realize go into our streets. And we just wanted to acknowledge today our streets department and what a fine job they do for the city. Our communities, our communities need a reliable system to get around every day, and a functioning system means less travel time and more time we can spend with our families. As a representative of the cities and towns across our state, we often are only able to fund 1/3 to 1/4 of our transportation needs. Now, when I read that, sometimes those numbers come out and I don't think we really think about that. I've checked with our city manager. We only receive funding that really pays for about 20% of our road transportation needs here in the city. So the rest of that is coming out of our general fund. If our roads are not well maintained and are developed accordingly, we could impair our future and our resource development. With efforts like the Unified Transportation Plan, we are joining our transportation priorities together with the state, counties, and other Utah cities and towns to ensure that we take a proactive approach in addressing our transportation needs. Fully implementing the Unified Transportation Plan will prevent deficient transportation conditions and save Utah's households billions of dollars. It's estimated that it will not only save our families, but our businesses together $84.8 billion in reduced congestion and vehicle operating costs, as well as improved reliability, safety, and the air quality, which has been an issue that's been in the news and the forefront lately. We are looking to the state legislature to consider our current and future transportation demands and help us figure out how to meet these needs. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to visit with you for a few minutes today and express to you some of the critical needs that we have here in our cities and in Uintah County. It has been described to me by the commissioner whose seat I took, or was turned over to me, Commissioner Haslam, that our transportation is the lifeblood of our community. And when you think of it in terms of the lifeblood of our community, it's something that we can't do without. We have to have our transportation corridors. And so ensuring that we maintain them at an acceptable level, that we build new roads where necessary is absolutely critical for our infrastructure, for our economy, and to be able to move forward with economic development. So, there's several problems plaguing our cities and county in terms of our roads. And it is something that over the years you have to address or it ends up catching up with you. Our culverts and bridges are an area that we struggle with. This is a picture of a bridge that we thought was just fine. We hadn't inspected it until recently, and someone who was duck hunting happened to run across this and say, hey, you guys might want to take a look at this. And so this is one of the bridges out on the White River that needs some attention, obviously. Whenever we have these little cloud bursts that are so frequent out, especially out in the Book Cliffs, it impacts our roads, and the ability to cross those roads is severely impacted. This is another example of where a road washed out, and it's on a small two-track. Nevertheless, these little corridors, transportation corridors throughout our county are extremely important, especially to the oil and gas industry. This one is along a route that goes up Dry Fork Canyon. One of our neighbors was irrigating, and he left the water on, and overnight it flooded out the culvert, and the traffic over that impacted the asphalt, and it did cave in. So all of these things have to be fixed. And with our extreme temperatures that we have out here in the basin, we have a multiplicity of potholes. It's just the nature of roads. You get a small depression, it collects water, it freezes, it creates cracking, the water gets down in the cracks, and the asphalt begins to deteriorate, and before too long you have a pothole. And these are everywhere. They're in the cities, they're in the county, a very big problem. The officer, as you'll notice, is standing in one of the potholes. So road patching is a big issue. It's an important issue, and as members of the community start experiencing the failure of the asphalt roads, our phone begins to ring. And so as the Vernal City Road Department is very well aware of, and the county, when people's roads start to deteriorate, they begin to call. And with the extreme temperatures, it severely impacts an asphalt surface. You get alligator cracking, the oil begins to dry out in the roads, which provides the adhesion, the cohesiveness of the asphalt and the ability for it to stay together, and it starts to come apart. And so there are very important programs that we have implemented, our asphalt management plan, our chip seal plan, which Sherry McCurdy, our Transportation Special Service District Director, I'm sure will talk about when she makes her comments, so I won't go there. But if you don't keep up with your asphalt management, then it severely impacts the life of an asphalt road. Snow removal, a very big issue out here in the basin. This is out on the Glen Bench Road, a stretch there that is fully impacted by lots of winds, and it doesn't take very much snow for it to accumulate in specific areas. And those of you who work in the road departments know this. Those who work in the county know this, that depending on the dips and swells and the high areas of the roads, it collects and moves the snow. And in some places, your road will be clear and bare and fine, and in other places, you'll have 3 or 4 foot drifts. And, when you try and drive a school bus through these, it doesn't work very well unless they're clear. So this brings up another point with our road departments, with our street departments. They're on call 24/7, and when we start having conditions that necessitates them to address these issues, they don't even hesitate. Whether it's 1 or 2 in the morning, you call them up and we have a big storm that moves through. There might be one potentially this weekend. They answer the call and they come out. And we appreciate them for the efforts that they make. But if you don't keep your roads clear, then that severely impacts the ability of the public to get to and from their work, the oil and gas fields, ability for the children to go to school. It's a very significant issue. We have extreme temperatures out here in the basin. Frequently every winter we'll go below zero, sometimes 10, 20, or even 30 degrees below zero. Well, as the water moves out of the pastures and into the culverts, it hits these cold areas. The traffic across the roads drives the freezing conditions down into the road and into the culverts, and it freezes them. And if you don't keep the culverts clear, then the ice builds up and you have an ice dam, and the water starts to run across the road, and then it begins to freeze. And so you have to keep them clear, and you can't, we used to use condensate. We don't do that anymore. We got in a little bit of trouble. But you have to literally heat up water and pump it under high pressure into these culverts to clean them out. And that helps keep the roads clear. But the ice will build up on the roads if you don't keep the culverts clear. Another issue we have out here in the basin is just the very nature of the location of the basin and how the weather conditions are affected. We have many storm cells that move through the area. And you don't get just a little nice sprinkling of rain over the whole Uinta Basin. It seems to come together in these big, massive thunderclouds and dumps a lot of water in a very small area, creating flooding conditions. This one is on the Dragon Road, and it's a very highly traveled road, and it was completely washed away. And oil and gas industry uses this road frequently. This one happened not this last year, but the year before. We had significant flooding out in those areas. This one is down one of the Atchee roads, completely washing it out. This one is on the road going south out of Ouray, just south of the Ouray Bridge. And this is just south of State Highway 88. It's just north of the new Seabridge Road, but the water level got so high it was completely covering the road. And the only way is to get this clear is to ensure that the existing culverts that go underneath the road are clear, and they tend to plug up with all of the debris. Some conditions you simply have to wait for it though to go down. So how does that impact Uinta County? We have over 6,000 miles. That's miles of road, not lane miles. And for those of you who understand what lane miles is, that sometimes doubles or triples the amount of road, especially when you're clearing snow. You can't just clear one lane down the middle of the road and call it good. You have to clear the whole road. And so that creates a situation where the snow removal teams have to go back and forth on these roads to keep them clear. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. I'm not much of a speaker, but I do tend to get carried away. So what does that mean for Uinta County? With all of these issues that we deal with, we receive, and for 2013, we received just a little over $3 million. And you would think that that would be sufficient for all of our road needs, not even close. Our road department last year expended over $4.3 million for maintenance of our B and D roads here in Uintah County. And that included, that included wages, benefits, fuel and oil, equipment, maintenance, and repair. And your equipment doesn't last forever. Your wages continually go up. If you try to track the wages and salaries, that's usually at a minimum of 3%. Mayor, I have a cup on the piano right behind that little snowman, just in case. Thanks. Thank you. And I'm about to wrap this up. Fuel and oil costs continue to escalate, and transportation of asphalt, transportation of gravel is a huge cost to move truckloads of road base and granular borrow, extremely costly, and you can't ever get enough product right where you're doing maintenance or repair on a road. You have to transport it, and it becomes very costly to the county. Road grader is a very important piece of equipment for a county. You can put 200,000 or 300,000 or hours of work on a road grader, but eventually it has to be replaced. The rotation of our graders is about 1 every 4 years, and we have 6 of them. And so if in that period of time you're spending $300,000 or $400,000 about every other year on just graders. Sorry. So equipment is very costly. The point of this is to show that we have to go to our general fund to make up the difference on the maintenance of our roads here in Uintah County. The distribution of funds that we get from the B Road funds is not sufficient even to maintain the needs that we have within the county. And so we're extremely pleased that the Utah Coalition is assisting in looking at additional funding for our rural areas of the state, for the cities, for the counties. We need additional funding just to keep up. Were it not for the mineral lease money, we would never do any new projects. Sherry will address the issues on that. There's never enough money, but the point is we appreciate the B Road funding. We appreciate the funds that we get from the Department of Transportation and from the state, but even that is not near enough for the maintenance requirements that we have for Uintah County. Thank you very much.
I appreciate the opportunity to take a few minutes here with you today. Those who may not know me, I'm Adam Massey, and I currently serve as the Executive Director of the Vernal Area Chamber of Commerce. And I also hold a couple of other duties. This year I was selected to be Utah State Chamber Chair, so I'm Chairman for the State Chamber also. And I also serve as Chair of our Uintah Transportation Special Service District. So I'm going to give you a bit of a three-tiered look at transportation today, at least from my view. In my previous life, for 19 years, I was a road contractor based out of the Vernal area here with my own business called Warhawk Enterprises. And we did federal highway, UDOT, and Salt Lake City Airport Authority work. So I've worked a lot on the Salt Lake International Airport, done a lot of runways out there with Granite Construction, with quite a few other contractors out there. We spent 3 or 4 years out there doing a lot of runways. Also a lot of UDOT work throughout the state, federal highway work in Colorado, and also here in Utah. The problem in the 19 years that we did work we were based out of the Vernal area, but because of lack of funding with the state, we just never had very many projects come up in our area. Every once in a while we'd get one, but out of those 19 years, I'd say probably 15 years, we were based out of Vernal, but we worked in other areas, just because you had to go where the money was and where the funding was. When I became put on the Transportation District Board 5 years ago. I appreciated the opportunity because we received the mineral lease funds back from the state that we're able to put towards projects here. And as we move forward, we look at different projects that are brought to us from the city and the county, and Sherry will address that a little bit more. And we prioritize those, and when we pick those, we're going to have our whole talk for by the time we get through, won't we, Commissioner? But our transportation district really does a lot of great work, and we're very proud of that. So we select those projects, and then we move forward with them. We're fortunate, and as Commissioner Raymond said, we're very fortunate that we do get the money out here that we do, and we appreciate UDOT and all the things that they do for us. To give you an example, though, from 2005 through 2014, with projects that we did with mineral lease monies was over $200 million, and projects done from the Utah Department of Transportation were over $100 million. And there again, we really appreciate the efforts. We know that the head count is on the Wasatch Front. We know that that's where the money's going to get spent. That's where the voters are too. So we understand that. But as Commissioner Raymond said, in rural Utah, we do have a real need for additional funding because we have a lot of, let's talk about this for a minute. 3 years ago, through our transportation district, we put up $800,000 and commissioned UDOT to do a transportation study to see what we were lacking in the Uinta Basin. What could we do better? What could we improve? Where do we need help? How do we need to improve our transportation to make things work better? When they did their study and the results were returned, I think it was very surprising to the state. They really found out how much we actually contribute from the Uinta Basin and how much money goes in the state coffers. And ever since then, we've had a lot of attention, not only from the state legislature, but a lot of people that want to help the Uinta Basin overcome our transportation needs, because it not only is good for the state, it's obviously good for the Uinta Basin, but it's good for the state as a whole too. Provides jobs and good paying jobs. Anytime there's road construction projects next to the oil and gas industry, those jobs probably are some of the higher paying jobs. And so it helps our economy that way. We're able to move forward, we're able to provide good jobs and do really good projects. I'll use Seepridge Road just as one that we just finished 2 weeks ago. We did a ribbon cutting on that, spent $86.5 million to develop that, to build that project. If Senator Van Tassel were here today, he'd tell you that we've already seen returns in excess of $500 million from out there. Those of you that have ever traveled, it was a billy goat trail really before, and if you've ever been out on it, you would see there wasn't a lot of development out there. If you drive out that way now, it's unbelievable with how much development there are. And as that development continues, it just forwards our economy and moves things. We're able to do things, return those mineral lease monies here that not only benefit our transportation district, but the other districts that we have from our recreation district on. The whole community benefits from it. One other thing is I became chamber director here almost 5 years ago. I was on the Transportation District Board before I became chamber director. Each year we go out to the legislature in February. We have what we call our state chamber meetings in February. We also have a state chamber meeting that we hold in July with whoever's the state chamber chair. It became very quickly, I became initiated in those meetings that a lot of times the different people that would come and speak were talking about the transportation needs, but they always seemed to talk about the Wasatch Front. They didn't mention rural Utah a lot, as Commissioner Raymond said, because of funding. It's just a struggle to get the funding. So, as we became more involved, once that transportation study was done, and we got the attention of the state, we were able to move forward with some different things. And I did have the opportunity to attend a Utah Transportation Coalition meeting earlier this year. I just had that pulled up and it went away. What I wanted to talk about was the goals of the Utah Transportation Coalition. The meeting that I attended was at the Utah Salt Lake City Chamber offices. There were probably 130 people there. And one of the 4, at that time, main goals that the Transportation Coalition had, one of them was the transportation system in the Uinta Basin. And as I looked around and I went up and got a roster afterwards, I was the only one there from the Uinta Basin. And visiting with some other people from the Salt Lake Chamber, obviously being state chamber chair, I came back, talked with Sherry McCurdy, our director at our Uinta Transportation Special Service District, and I said, you know, here we are, and one of the main goals is helping us in the Uinta Basin, and we don't have anybody attending, at least at that meeting. I'm not saying we haven't, because I know other people do attend meetings. And so we felt like at that time that it was important that we not only have a seat at the table, that we have a decision-making process. So we went ahead and joined the Salt Lake Chamber, the Transportation Coalition, one of their upper level memberships. So like I said, we not only have a seat at the table, but we also have a say in how things are going here in the Uinta Basin. I know Mayor Norton attends meetings out there. We've talked at our chamber luncheons about it. Our commissioners constantly attend meetings. I know they do. Sherry sits on the Transportation Coalition board. I attend my state chamber meetings. It takes all of us working together. We're very fortunate to have Senator Van Tassel that has done a fantastic job. And you know, we've got a lot of people working in our behalf, and we're going to have to continue to do that, because as Senator Van Tassel told me not too long ago, it doesn't matter, it wouldn't matter if we grew at 30%. We're never going to have the growth that the Wasatch Front does, even if they grow at 1%, because there's just so many people there, and that's where all the needs are going to be. You see it every time you go out there. The traffic just continues to increase. We're always going to be fighting for funding. So I want to really applaud the Transportation Coalition. This is a huge step in coming out here and getting our input, and I really appreciate that, because 4 or 5 years that I've been in the chamber, sometimes I think rural Utah feels a little bit neglected. So the efforts that they're putting forth right now are huge. And bringing all the ideas together, how can we work together, how can we make things better? They see that by benefiting the Uinta Basin, they're going to be benefiting the state as a whole. So I've kind of gave you a 3-tiered look at different things as a contractor, somebody that, you know, from the Chamber of Commerce that sees the economic development and also the growth of our community. And every study I've ever seen, as you continue to improve and work and develop your transportation system, the economy follows. It always does. You don't ever develop a transportation system and have the economy tail off. They just work together. It just makes things better. We talk safety issues, as Commissioner Raymond has. We can talk air quality issues, as Mayor Norton has. Those are all things that are a huge concern that we want to make sure we do. One plug I want to give, and hope I didn't steal this from Sherry too, is the Basin Transit Association. We're probably one of the only communities, I would dare say, in the United States our size that has a bus service that we provide and that you can ride for as cheaply as you can. We got a grant from the Utah Department of Transportation, put with it, I think, $200,000 that we're up to now from our Transportation Special Service District, and it provides a great service in the community for people that can't afford it. And it also helps with our air quality. Just a couple of things that, you know, we've been able to do with working with other agencies to have happen here in the Uinta Basin. Anyway, I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today. We're very fortunate to live where we live, and we do so out of choice. And all of us need to work together to make sure that we're on the same page and moving forward with keeping it a great place to live, but also making sure that we address our transportation needs, because it affects all of us in one way or another. I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you for being here today. Thanks again to the Transportation Coalition for putting this together. Thanks.
My name is Ryan Jones. I am the president of the Basin chapter of the Utah Trucking Association. I'm also the president and owner of R.W. Jones Trucking Company here in town. We've been doing business in the area here for now 70 years. In that time, many great things associated with the transportation industry has occurred. Things like the prevalent use of air travel, for travel for freight, the construction of the interstate system, all the way to spaceflight, just to name a few. All of these things and more have contributed to making our lives better. I look now to where we are headed as a community, as a state, and as a country, and now's not the time to shrink from our challenges involving transportation, but to start implementing solid ideas based on a comprehensive plan which encompasses all modes of transportation. Utah is central to the western United States, so this means we get more than our fair share of traffic, both private and commercially, with more to come from what I'm told. So far, my association with the Utah Department of Transportation, Vernal City, and Uintah County have been positive as far as ideas that we've had for making our roads safer and making them flow better. But the kind of growth that's being projected is staggering, and with that, transportation issues will arise. It will take a concerted effort between all levels of government, elected officials, and private industry to come up with a viable plan to address those issues and the funding problems that will come along with that. Now, I'm not smart enough to solve those problems of a plan or funding that plan, but I am smart enough to know that we will all benefit from those results. And I also believe that everybody needs to share in that cost. The decisions that need to be made will not be popular, but they do need to be made. And now's the time to be making those decisions, not at a time when you're up against the wall and you're forced to make those decisions. I'm just going to end it by saying that whoever said if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, they were right. And this is a time to plan. Thank you.
For those of you that don't know me, I'm Sherry McCurdy, and I'm the Executive Director of the Uintah Transportation Special Service District. I've worked with the district for about 17 years. That'll date me a little bit, but it's been amazing to see the difference from 17 years ago to today. When I started, we did a small chip seal project each year, and we reconstructed a couple of miles of road. Our budget was usually between $1 to $2 million. Now we receive $14 to $16 million average through the mineral lease. We also go after funding through the Community Impact Fund Board, which is mineral lease based, to keep up with our projects. Seepridge Road was mentioned. Our projects keep getting bigger. Seepridge Road was 44 miles of roadway, and it was a goat trail. And now it's a beautiful, beautiful paved road that's going to help our economy, because anytime we improve transportation, we improve our economy. I want to focus on what we're doing to keep our good roads good. That is vital, because if you fall behind, you never catch up. And we've approached that a little bit different this last year. Instead of chip sealing the roadways, we stepped back and analyzed the roads. We had LTAP come out and do an analysis of the roads for us, and then we brought an engineering team on board to evaluate those, and we gave each road a different type of treatment that varied from GSB 88, which is a sealant, to chip seal with different types of oils that would help bind and hold those roads together. And then ultimately we overlaid a couple of roadways with a 1 to 2 inch overlay. So what we're doing is we're trying to spend the money in a more cost-effective way, stretch our dollars. Uintah County has 600 miles of paved roads. We try to do maintenance on those every 5 to 6 years, and it's very expensive. In fact, our budget for next year, which includes some work for the cities, is at $7.5 million to keep up. I serve on the executive committee of the Transportation Coalition. I'm fairly new to that. I'm learning a lot. And at the last meeting that I attended, somebody from the committee said, well, you have mineral lease out in the basin. That helps you keep up with your roads. You know, what's your budget every year? Well, I will tell you that what we're receiving is not enough to keep up with the growth. In fact, Commissioner McKee about a week ago told me, because we're always trying to keep the funding transportation directed, and there's so many needs here. Sherry, if you got $100 million a year, you would spend it. And that is absolutely correct, because we're growing and we can't keep up with the needs. We're looking at an alternate truck route. we're calling it Ashley Valley Energy Route south of Vernal. Seep Ridge is huge. The cities come to the county, and then those projects come to us to keep up with their projects, and we're evaluating them on the same level as Uintah County. We can no longer do a chip seal on every road. We need to evaluate it and focus on keeping our good roads good, and then hoping that we have enough funding to get back to the roads that we can't keep good. So mineral lease is vital. We improve roads like Seep Ridge. It helps build that pot of money. I do not know what we would do without the Community Impact Fund Board to help us keep up with what we're doing here in the basin. And yes, we do help the state, and we have their attention. And I greatly appreciate the Transportation Coalition for recognizing that and for recognizing the basin and including us in their priorities. So I hope that pressure was on me to finalize through all those speeches there, but I hope I finalized everything fine. If you ever have any questions, I'm always available to talk about that. So thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we want to express our gratitude once again to Vernal City and Mayor Norton and Ken Bassett for hosting us today. We appreciate all of you. We know that many of you come from a distance in order to be with us today. For those of you that are interested in learning more about the Utah Transportation Coalition, the website is utahtransportation.org. Thank you. Escaped me for a second. And for those of you that may be tweeting from this event, please use the hashtag #Don'tDelayUT. Thanks for coming today. Look for more information to come out from the Utah Transportation Coalition as we move towards a strategic solution that will help move Utah's transportation into the future. Thank you once again. Our speakers will be available for individual interviews afterwards if you need that. Thanks so much.